Now, today is day 3. We're going to do a little bit more practice on Sohcahtoa from yesterday's lesson. So yesterday, we talked about Sohcahtoa. So meaning sine, ka meaning cosine, tangent meaning tangent. And we use Sohcahtoa when we are looking for an angle or a length. So yesterday we concentrated on finding the length only, but today we're going to figure out how to find an angle. So number one, so let's say we have to label, we're given a right angle triangle, and it's always Sohcahtoa is for a right angle triangle. If my given angle is, let's say, B here, we know the hypotenuse is always opposite from 90 degree, hypotenuse. And from B, length AC is opposite. And AB, which is right beside the angle, is adjacent. Okay. Now, so this time, we're going to figure out how to find an angle using our scientific calculator. So let's say we're given sine angle A is equal to 0.8192, the ratio. So we've been writing like sine A or X angle is equal to, let's say, 1/2. So another way to write 1/2, you could write it as sine A. Instead of a ratio, you could write it in decimal as well. In order to isolate for A, angle, what we're going to do, we're going to move sine to the other side. When you move sine or cosine or tangent to the other side, it becomes inverse. So A, how you write it, is equal to sine. You always write the trig ratio first, -1. This -1 means that it's an inverse, and then bracket 0.8192. So how do I do this inverse function? So on your calculator, you will see a second button, second function. So try to find the second function, and you're going to press on second function and then press sine. And then hopefully you will see -1 and then put in 0.8192 and press equal sign. Now for some calculators, you will have to do the opposite. So you will have to do 0.8192 and then press second function and then press sine and press enter. Okay, so it depends on the calculator. So once you are able to punch that in on your calculator, you should be getting 55 degrees. And for angles, always round to the whole number. Okay, so let's try the next one, letter D. So we are given cosine B, and this time the ratio is negative. It's okay. So I'm going to isolate for B, and I'm going to move cosine to the other side. I want B to be alone. So when I move cosine to the other side, it becomes cosine inverse. So second function, and then cosine, bracket, -0.8480, and make sure you close the bracket and press enter. And for B, you will get 148 degrees. Okay, so if you're able to get this number, that means you are doing it correctly. Again, make sure to round your angle to the whole number. Now what about tangent? Same thing. B is equal to, every time you're looking for an angle, you are doing an inverse of trig function. So tangent inverse, bracket 0.6680, bracket, and once you enter, you should be getting 34 degrees. Okay. Okay, so let's try some questions here. Let's take a look at letter C. So it looks like we are looking for an angle, and it's a right angle triangle. So if angle is involved, we cannot do Pythagorean theorem. Instead, we have to do Sohcahtoa. So this is going to be my starting angle, what I'm looking for. Let's label all the sides. So it looks like 13 is hypotenuse. 6 is the opposite from my starting angle, and this must be adjacent. And I'm going to write down Sohcahtoa. Now let's figure out which trig ratio I will be using. It looks like I'm given H and I'm given O. So which of the trig ratio contains O and H? So it's not Toa, it's not cosine, so it must be sine containing O and H. So I'm going to write down the formula, sine, 3 letters, and then you can write x, or I could write theta. This theta means it's unknown angle. Okay, it's a symbol. And so every time we're looking for an angle, you can use theta, or you could use x, a variable, doesn't matter. So sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Now let's plug in the numbers that we know. So sine theta is equal to 6 over 13. Now I want to find an angle, so I'm going to move sine to the opposite side. So every time I'm looking for an angle, when sine moves, it becomes inverse. 6 divided by 13. So on your calculator, you do second function, sine, bracket, and you'll be doing 6 divided by 13, and then close the bracket. So when you close the bracket, you should be getting theta is equal to 27 degrees. So you can do all of this in one step. If you have like a backward calculator, what you could do is you could do 6 divided by 13, and then you're going to press second function, and then press sine, and then press equal sign. And that way you are able to get a exact answer. Okay. Okay, so let's try another question. Now, let's take a look at letter C. So we are given a right angle triangle. Let's try A, sorry. Let's try A, something different. So we're looking for X here, my starting angle, and let's label. So it looks like my hypotenuse is 32. This is opposite length, and 24 is adjacent. Okay, so Sohcahtoa. Let's see. So I'm given H and I'm given A. So it looks like so doesn't work. And it's ka, right? It contains A and H. So we're looking cosine. So cosine theta, or x in this case, is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine x is equal to 24 over 32. And I'm going to move cosine to the other side. So x is equal to cosine inverse -1, don't forget, bracket 24 divided by 32. So you can do all of this in one step. Second button, cosine, or second button, or some people it will be shift, and then bracket 24 divided by 32, and you will get x is equal to 41 degrees in whole number. Okay. Now, what about we're looking for a length? So let's take a look at letter B. So we're given an angle over here. This is my starting angle, 49. So it looks like this is hypotenuse, opposite from 90. And 36 is opposite, and x is adjacent. So this time, we're not looking for an angle. We're looking for a length. So we won't be doing inverse because we are looking for a length here. So let's write down Sohcahtoa. And so I have opposite, and I'm looking for adjacent. And a formula that contains O and A is TOA. So let's write down the formula for TOA, tangent. X, or theta, is equal to opposite over adjacent. Tangent, so we know the angle, which is 49, is equal to opposite, which is 36, over adjacent, which is x. Now, if I have a variable in the denominator, like I said yesterday, what we can do is we could switch places, like that. You switch it, so you now have x is equal to 36 over tangent 49. Switch. And then you're going to press 36 divided by tangent 49. And you'll get x is equal to 31.3 meter. So for length, for distances, round to 1 decimal. So let me write it down. Angle, round to whole number. And for the length, I want you to round to 1 decimal for accuracy. Okay, so this applies to all your assignments and for your test. Okay, now let's try a word problem. Okay, so number 6. So write the ratio. So we're looking for ratio, comparing the length of the adjacent side to the length of the hypotenuse for the marked angle H. Okay, so it looks like this is my marked angle H. And then express the ratio as a decimal. And then you're going to compare your answers. Okay, so we're going to write down the ratio from the marked angle, which is H. So let's label. It looks like hypotenuse is 13. 5 is the opposite, and 12 is adjacent. And it wants us to write the ratio with adjacent, A, and hypotenuse, H. So let's write down Sohcahtoa, and a ratio that contains adjacent and hypotenuse must be Ka. A and H. So now that we know the ratio, let's write down cosine theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. In this case, we are given H. So cosine, the theta, the angle is H. I'm going to replace that. And adjacent is 12. And hypotenuse is 13. Okay, so we expressed it as a ratio, and then it wants us to also express the ratio as a decimal. So what that means is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 12 divided by 13. So this could be expressed either way as cosine H. 12 divided by 13 is going to give me 3 decimals, 0.8 9, 2, 3, 1. Okay? Yes. So this is another way to represent the ratio in decimal, and they mean exactly the same. Okay? And after that, the question doesn't say, but over here at the bottom it says find the angle H. So to find the angle H, you could use this or you could use this. Both will work. So what I'm going to do, H is equal to, I'm going to move cosine to the other side, inverse. And you could do 0.9231 or 12 over 13. And H into a whole number will be 23 degrees. So the angle H is 23.